Hello, you're very welcome along to a live reaction from Slovakia versus Ireland on what was ultimately a disappointing night for the Irish team. I'm joined alongside me by my brother Sean.
How's it going?
And on the line here is Cian O'Hannigan. Cian, can you hear us?
I can hear you, lads. Can you hear me?
We can indeed. We can indeed.
Good stuff.
Cian, just your initial reaction to the penalty shootout to start with, I suppose, was absolutely heartbreaking stuff, wasn't it?
Yeah, I mean, it's just a massive disappointment after what was a really credible performance. I think, I mean, over the 120 minutes of play, I think we deserve to win it. So it's a real shame. At the end of the day, it's a lottery when it comes to a penalty shootout, and we were just unlucky on the night.
Sean, your initial reactions, I know we were watching the game together. It seemed like for the first time in a long time, we seemed to pass the ball well. And even, into the second half of extra time, we were always trying to pass the ball. And I think ultimately in the long term, it could be a huge night for Ireland, that performance.
Yeah, and I suppose when Stephen Kenny took over in the circumstances he did, it he didn't make it easy, the FAI for us to qualify. And I suppose that, in a sense, is disappointing. But the performance I thought was good. But because of the way it's gone and because they wanted Stephen Kenny to come in and implement this style of football, and it's just hurt us because he could argue we needed a little bit more time. But I thought, tonight the lads did a lot of things well. Yes, not everything was perfect and it might have cost us, but from open play, some of the chances, and finally we're getting to see the best of some of these players like John Egan, David McGoldrick at 32. You're looking at him going, he's only a handful of caps, and it's it's kind of disappointing in that sense. But tonight I thought, look, there wasn't a huge amount of things that went wrong. Like Cian said, penalty shootouts is a lottery, and we should have won it before then, and we just didn't take enough chances, and we were really hampered by what happened to Aaron Connolly and Adam Maida. So look, it just didn't fall for us tonight, and but it was a much better performance than what we saw a couple of weeks ago.
How big a loss, Cian, was Aaron Connolly to that side? If you just picture him coming in for McLean there, definitely probably could have made a massive difference for us going forward, particularly the form he's in, and maybe he could have linked up with McGoldrick there. It's just frustrating that himself and Ida had to sit out due to what we think is the close contacts.
Yeah, it's really unfortunate. Like, he's a massive loss. I think Connolly, to be honest, he's the future of Irish football. Like, I really think he is. I'm a big fan of him. I think he's got pace, and to go with his pace, like, he has a brain on him. Like, so you can't combine the two. Like, his runs are very clever. He's very smart. He's not bad on the ball. Possibly still room for improvement in terms of like finishing and goals this game, but in terms of what he would have added tonight, I think he would have provided a way bigger outlet than McLean on that left hand side, and it was a massive loss in the end. And hopefully him and Adam Ida are all right.
Yeah, listen, anyone watching on the live stream, make sure you get your comments into us there on Twitter, Facebook, or YouTube. So, Sean, let's talk about what was different from that performance compared to maybe a few months ago. Like, you spoke of a couple of players that stood up tonight, particularly if we start with McGoldrick up front, and how good was he for 32? And I know a lot of people might have been thinking we should have got Shane Long on sooner, but you see McGoldrick holding up the ball with 10 minutes to go in extra time, and how good he was, and he's not used to playing up front on his own for his club. So I guess it was an absolute massive performance, and shows that Stephen Kenny can get the best out of these players.
Yeah, exactly. He was really good, and ever since he's become a key figure in this Irish side, he's been one of our best players. And again tonight, he was really good at holding up the play, linking players together. And look, he's not a hugely prolific goal scorer, but he still provided moments there tonight where we could have nicked it and we could have got a goal out of it. And even just the relationship he has with Callum Robinson, you at times tonight when McGoldrick did come wide to get the ball, Robinson would make a run in field and not leave the defence with nothing.
So they were switching a lot of the time. We were talking that. Do you reckon that was Stephen Kenny deciding that maybe McGoldrick go out right for a bit and Robinson go in field, or do you feel that could have been even the players deciding that themselves?
Yeah, I think it's sort of a natural thing. If you can't have your right back, your right winger, and your striker on the right wing, you need players in field, and I think Robinson did that tonight with McGoldrick, interchanged nicely. And look, and on another day, the goal comes from McGoldrick's brilliant run, and we're sitting here talking about David McGoldrick as man of the match, and it's just unfortunate with the way it's fell. And you would have fancied him to slot away a penalty, and that's just a huge moment tonight where look, we just didn't get it.
McGoldrick, Cian, how impressed were you and him and Robertson up front in particular? And Ireland finally seemed to have like a goal scoring threat going forward. That it seemed, I don't know, maybe 6, 7, 8 times during that game when there was passage of plays, it was like there's a chance here we could possibly score. So where other Ireland games you might not get that in the whole year, to be honest, 6 or 7 goal chances. So it was just a nice change, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, for McGoldrick, like it was probably one of the strongest performances in an Ireland shirt. There was one point that I think it was long ball was launched up to him, and he took an unbelievable touch, and we were away then, and we were on the front foot. I thought that like he was a constant menace to the Slovakian defence all night, and it's a really good sign. As I said, it's a shame that he's into his 30s now, and we're only starting to see this kind of form for winning for Ireland.
32, yeah.
Yeah, we could have done with him like long before now, but. I mean, he's another player. Like if he could have added goals to his game, like his all round game is brilliant. Like so, if he could have added more goals, like I mean, he could have been a real player. But yeah, like tonight he was fantastic. Like it wasn't he didn't deserve to be on the losing side. Thought the way he brought the midfield into play, like holding the ball up, it was really really strong, and he constantly had us pushing forward, and he was really positive, and he's looking at a score a couple of times as well.
And Robinson as well, like, this is someone who, again, has been in and around the Irish setup now for a few seasons when he was at Preston. And tonight he really showed what he's all about. And I thought he was, them two were probably our two brightest sparks. I thought James McLean did well. He did what you expect from him. A couple of minutes into the game, he makes a 45-yard run from the corner and stops a certain goal. And it's just those small little things that, most other players wouldn't have got there, wouldn't have had the desire. And that's what James gives you. And look, we don't know the reasons behind Aaron Connolly's omission. It's naturally gonna come out in the next couple of days, but McLean still did a job there, and you're kind of looking at it going, if Connolly did start and if it was Kenny's plan, which it would seem likely, Connolly, Robinson and McGoldrick looks a really good front three going forward. Okay, McGoldrick is pushing on a little bit, but there certainly is positives, and I suppose the worst thing from it is, or the best thing from it now is, we go straight into the Nations League game where Stephen Kenny has more and more time. And look, you knew when he took over the job, it wasn't going to be an easy thing to start changing the whole culture around the Irish senior men's team and how the way we played. But there was really good signs tonight there where there was just really good interchange in the pass, and we kind of suffocated them for large parts of the game where we kept the pressure on, and look, we should have scored. I think everyone will understand that. But, I still think it was a good performance despite going out. And look, penalties is going to play like that. And it was just unlucky. Yeah,
well, like some of the age profiles there that we mentioned, Robinson's 25, O'Dowda's 25, Edith's 19, Connolly's 20. There's still a lot of kind of youth in that forward line that Cian, like you said, off David McGoldrick. There is definitely a lot of talent there going forward that we could finally have a bit of a goal scoring threat to go with our more or less overall solid defence.
Well, yeah, for me, like what was most impressive about tonight was the amount of clear-cut chances we created. I mean, the one for Hurahan and Brown had a couple as well. Like that's not something that you're guaranteed to get from an Irish team. Especially, I know Slovakia. Let's be honest, I thought they would be better than they were, but they're still a half decent team. We're playing in Europe. That's what was for me the most important thing to get out of this game. Like I know obviously the result, fair enough, would be nice to go first, but in terms of like what Stephen Kenny's trying to build, like obviously as Sean said, it was never going to be a quick fix. It's going to take time. Like this is only his third international game, I think it is, and I think the fact that we've playing better football, got the ball down, we're passing around and actually creating chances and being really positive, I think that's huge. And I think, we've always been good defensively. I think we set up well. So just to have, the main issue is the goals, and if we can start creating chances and putting them away, then that's the most important thing.
Yeah, look, I think, if those two chances go in and we're sitting here talking about an unbelievable away win and under Stephen Kenny, and it's just the facts of the matter. And look, Stephen Kenny will sit back in a couple of weeks when the international breaks is done and dusted and think, look, what could have been? But, everyone knew it wasn't going to be an overnight success. And I think there'd be a lot of people quick to judge, but if you sit back and look at that performance, I think it was good enough to win, and it's good enough for a manager that's had very limited time with these players, and the added on complications of COVID.
Sean, staying with you then with the midfield, how impressed were you overall with Conor and James McCarthy, Jeff Hendrick? Alan Brown came off the bench as well. It seems like they played a lot better. Like it's night and day compared to their performance last month as well.
Yeah, I thought the midfield three was a lot better balanced today with Hourihane and McCarthy sitting deep. I was a little bit disappointed with Jeff Hendrick. I think, at times tonight he was pretty good and good at linking the play and getting in between the midfield and our attacking line. But again, he just kind of ran out of steam, and 120 minutes can do that to players. But he was probably the only one that I was a little bit disappointed with. I thought Conor Hourihane played very well, should have scored. Look, we all know that, but I thought he linked the play really well, and that position side kind of suited him a bit more. McCarthy was a little bit unlucky to come off with an injury, but I thought Alan Brown did well when he came on. The flick, there's not much he can do with that. The penalty, you kind of expect him to score. It takes a lot of penalties for Preston. So I thought the midfield was a lot more balanced tonight, and we were able to play a little bit better.
Yeah, we're getting a lot of comments in here, a bit harsh on the can't finish. Sean, if you want to get that question up, we've got a question in here from Blair's White Blog. Wood, it's massive, kind of blocks us off there. Yes, so it's, hi lads, in your guys' opinion, does Jack Byrne come off the bench tonight if he's playing for an English side? And it mentions the League of Ireland almost stigma, I guess. What are your thoughts on that, Sean, in terms of a question? I don't know myself personally. Like, at the end of the day, we do have a lot of Premier League players playing for the team at the moment, so to bring Jack Byrne on in a game like that. However, he is probably a different type of player that maybe could have created a couple of chances, although I don't think tonight we missed a lad creating chances. I think we probably missed a finisher more than anything.
Yeah, it's an interesting one, that the Jack Byrne, if he was playing for an English side. And the answer is he'd have more of a chance. And that's nothing to do with Stephen Kenny, but I think that
he's been linked to Bournemouth at the moment.
Yeah, I think
the championship.
Yeah, the optics of bringing on a League of Ireland player with 20 minutes to go to the natural sport fan in Ireland would be a negative thing. And that's the whole culture that Stephen Kenny has to turn around. Jack Byrne's a really good player, but tonight maybe it probably wasn't the night. A home game, and even in the Aviva, I think would have been a little bit suited to him. The subs that came on, I thought worked largely. Alan Brown came on, did well. Robbie Brady, although you probably expect a little bit more quality from Brady. But Jack Byrne, look, that's the big question. If he did come on, and if he was at an English club, there is the potential for him to get a game.
What were your thoughts on the subs overall there, Cian? I think you're on mute there, Keith, if you want to take yourself mute. But what did you think of the subs overall? Do you think maybe Andrew has a point there in terms of Jack Byrne could have possibly be brought on, or do you think overall Stephen Kenny got it right with the subs, that they seem to make an impact?
Yeah, I mean, if he brings Jack Byrne on, it's I would say it off for Stephen Kenny. Like, it's a tough decision for him to make from his background and where he's come from. If he brings a player like Jack Byrne on, and it works, like it looks wonderful. But the chances of it working are a lot slimmer than or the chances of being successful are a lot slimmer than it not. So, I mean, it's a big decision for him to make. I do think that Shane Long, like I'm a huge Shane Long fan, to be honest with you. I think what he brings to the team in terms of his work rate and just kind of getting in behind and challenging defenders, and he makes them panic. And I think bringing him on, I think it was 110th minute. It was quite late for me. I know McGoldrick was playing well. I think he just could have made room for him somewhere. I don't know, like maybe kind of put him out right, maybe instead of Alan Brown or something like that. I know that's not his natural position, but I just think he gives him more defense, more to think about. But yeah, as I said, like the Jack Byrne one, the debate we're all on about that and what he could have done, and maybe like he is, very creative player. So could he have influenced that kind of game? It's a big ask for him to come in and do something such a high profile game as well.
And the thing about Shane Long is, I was looking at it there and I was like, yeah, bring on Shane Long. And then you look and go, right, well, we have Robbie Brady's just come off the bench. Callum O'Dowd has come off the bench. Alan Brown's come off the bench. So the only player you could take off there to bring on Long really would be David McGoldrick. And McGoldrick was playing such a good game. It's such an influence on that Ireland team. And even, like you said, even in the second half of extra time and in the latter stages of the first half of extra time, he was picking up the ball. He was getting us out, getting us up the pitch by controlling possession. And I think, for all Long could have given you going forward, and maybe on the last line of the defender, I think, it was hard for Kenny to make that sub.
let's move on to slight negative, I guess. Overall, I thought Matt Doherty at times he looked quite good going forward and linking up, but he got caught a couple of times in defence. Cian, what's the story with Matt Doherty? And he seems to play the right wing back role so well, and yeah, he comes to a back four. It's widely known that his performance is dip, and I guess it maybe helped in the long run playing in a back four with Spurs, but it was notable he got dropped for Aurier Day against United. I don't think enough was really said about that, to be honest with you. It was a big call for Jose, and it paid off. How do you think Matt Doherty is? Do you think going forward Coleman just slots in there right back, or do you think that Matt Doherty could potentially improve at that position, or do you think maybe we should just focus on Coleman and try and get Matt Doherty in somewhere else?
It's a funny one. Like, firstly, it's good to see him at Tottenham now. I think he's found his home. Showing he has no bottle there, yeah, but it's no penalty. I know, but all jokes aside, he was like he's it's a weird one, obviously, because obviously they're different positions, but he's still, like, I feel like even tonight for Ireland, he's still trying to make things happen, despite, like, he never kind of like kicks the ball long. He's always trying to like play short passes, kind of intricate kind of football, and I think that's something that, like, a lot of Irish players don't do. But I think at the end of the day, like, it is a well-known fact that he's just not the same player when he plays in a right back. I think Seamus Coleman, I think he should be slotting straight back in there. You never know with Doherty. I mean, if Jose has him playing at Tottenham there, and if he can improve him like that, that might help his chances with the Ireland team. But at the moment, I think if Coleman's fit and available, I think he has to be a shoe in there ahead of Doherty.
Defensively, again, though, Doherty was at fault. I think it was a ball
a couple of times, wasn't it?
Yeah, there was a ball Hamsik played where he kind of just tried to flick it and it fell through for their attacker. They might be doing that, and only for Duffy clearing it off the line and take back to the Denmark game when he made a mistake for the goal. Yes, he came up the other end and scored. So just a couple of times where defensive mistakes will be made by Doherty, and there was one of the first half of extra time. So look, there's just a huge issue there for Matt defensively for Ireland, and I do think Coleman would have started and tonight, and look, it doesn't help.
I actually think Kenny would have stuck with Doherty.
I think that tonight, I think he would have played Seamus Coleman, just the way Seamus has been playing for Everton. They're flying in the Premier League, and I think Doherty getting dropped there and kind of struggling at times, and Jose Mourinho calling him out. I think he just would have gone with Coleman, but look, Doherty just defensively in a four. Look, he's going to improve playing with Tottenham, but that's a problem at the moment.
Rest of the back four, a lot of people have said Enda Stevens, John Egan at times for Ireland haven't been able to quite play their best games for Ireland, possibly playing out of position compared to Sheffield United. I thought the two of them, and alongside with Shane Duffy, who, as you mentioned, the preview podcast, playing with Celtic's probably a help there. And I thought overall those three were absolutely excellent, both defensively and with the ball as well. Particularly Enda Stevens going forward, creating a couple of the chances.
And yeah, Enda Stevens was brilliant, and he's just so consistent. Really, doesn't really put a foot wrong. Very good at controlling the ball under pressure, which is a huge thing for us going forward. And it was a lot better tonight. The little one-touch control we had in and around spaces in their half, and the two centre backs. We are kind of talking during the week with Oisin about for all we want to play aggressive football and play from their feet, I was worried about defensively. Could we just get a performance out of them? And no, you know what you're going to get from Shane Duffy and John Egan as well. And the two of them were just superb at the back. And there's a couple of little errors in midfield where we lost the ball, and they didn't really hurt us, and that's the sort of annoying thing to come away with tonight. They didn't hurt us. Hamsik just didn't really get the ball in enough in attacking areas, and they didn't quite get at us, and to come away losing in penalties, that's probably where it will sting most for the not only the players but for Stephen Kenny and the management staff.
Cian, I know you're a massive Enda Stevens fan, but you're also a massive critic for him when he plays for Ireland, because he can't seem to bring that Premier League performance to an Ireland jersey. I thought myself, particularly Creighton going forward, he was absolutely excellent, and he found himself like in the number 10 role sometimes going forward, particularly I think it was the McGoldrick chance.
Yeah, it was interesting. He's a bit like Doherty in terms of, has he kind of got the same qualities when he's playing like as left back as opposed to like the wing back role. But yeah, he was excellent tonight. He was so dangerous going forward, kind of creating chances. He's making things happen, and that's not an easy thing to do when you're coming from like left back. He's another bit of a late bloomer. He kind of moved across to England like late enough in his career, like kind of into his 20s anyway. Took him a while to move up the leagues a bit, and now he's shining in the Premier League. Ireland are benefiting. Like tonight, he was, again, I think that was one of his best Ireland performances, to be honest with you. And yeah, hopefully he can keep that up now going forward.
Oops, absolutely. moving ahead, sorry, me and myself there. Moving ahead to the Nations League games, I suppose, Sean, what are the positives we can take out from not tonight? What should Irish fans listening here should get excited about, or what should we look for in the Nations League? Who should start? We've got Jason Malumbi, Jack Byrne. I know a couple of the commenters have mentioned Jack Byrne. Do you reckon he'll start in one of the Nations League games? And because it's 3 games, so even another 2, there's chances are no one's going to be playing all 3 games.
Yeah, I think that the squad will be used, and even the likes of Josh Cullen could get a game, and it's a real chance now because we failed to qualify. There's a certain few players, your likes of Jeff Hendricks, Robbie Brady, that are starting to push on a little bit, and they, Stephen Kenny might just look at this as a chance to change it up a little bit, and get rid of some of the players that haven't quite been there, and try and move on and bring in the likes of, we don't know about Aaron Connolly, but bring in the likes of Jason Malumbi, Darragh O'Shea, lads who've been flying for Stephen at the 21s, and it could be the makings of us going forward, if you like, and I think Stephen will try and spin this into a positive and try and get something out of the next couple of games next week, because it is a disappointment, but you can't let it linger, and it is an exciting time under Stephen Kenny, and these players will be excited to improve, and the likes of Callum Robinson, that's 25, will be thinking, my best chance of playing in a major tournament is in 4 years' time, and we're going to build towards that, and we're going to have the World Cup to qualify for, and those players that are 24, 25 that really want another moment like in the Euros in 2016, and they want to put their name into Irish football history, they're going to get behind Stephen Kenny, and look, in the dark of day, it's a disappointment, but Stephen Kenny can try and spin this into something positive.
Absolutely. And who are you looking forward to, particularly in the Nations League, to see? As we mentioned, Sean mentioned a couple, Jack Byrne, Jason Malumbi. There's definitely a bit of exciting young talent for the first time in a while in an Irish team that are close to making the squad.
Yeah, I mean, as I said, like, even we spoke about him already, like, Aaron Connolly back integrated. I think I saw some of the comments mentioned Jason Knight. He's doing really well at Derby. I mean, he brings a lot of energy, and he's contributing in terms of goals and to the play there. Jason Malumbi's an interesting one, because if he can kind of break into that Brighton team, I mean, you think if you're playing week in, week out in the Premier League in centre midfield, then he's a really strong case. You like to see, Adam Ida, he started the season quite well. He's got a couple of goals for Norwich. So I know Kenny obviously fancies him. He's had him at the underage levels. He started him in the last game. So they're a few players. There's serious talent coming through now. I think that the future generations looking a lot more positive. And even like with the likes of tonight, like we just go back to like the likes of Stevens, like the license that he was given to go forward there from by Stephen Kenny to even get in their positions. Like, I mean, that's been quite unheard of in recent times. Like, usually, like Irish managers, like, right, you stick to your position. Like, you get very few chances to kind of roam, I suppose. And even just giving that license, it just kind of brings an air of positivity to it and shows that we are going to try to be more creative, and just means it makes the future more positive, especially with the talent that's up and coming.
Absolutely, and it's a pity fans can't be in the Viva for the next game, because there'd just be such a buzz after watching that match. But Sean, you wanted to come in on that comment, kind of exciting football but failure in qualifying, or conservative and consistent qualifying, and whatever the merits of the question, I guess it is important to talk about that. But first of all, we only qualified for 2 tournaments in 2002, I think. So I'm a big believer in, if we play like the Stephen Kenny way, I think there should be a patient enough approach for the next 2 or 3 tournaments, and you give it to them no matter what the kind of results are, so long as the performances are there. I know we've had a couple of debates on Martin O'Neill before, where you probably focus a bit more on results. How are you seeing it after Kenny's performance? Do you think there should be a patient enough long-term approach, or do you think there has to be results as well as that?
Yeah, look, I think, my take on it has been for a while, I'd rather see us get to big major tournaments and have those moments where football's in the spotlight of Irish sport and Irish media for 3 weeks or whatever it is. And look, I think the thing with Kenny is he is going to give you that excitement of going to watch an Ireland game, and I think that was probably lost, where people that have season tickets might have found it a chore under Martin O'Neill or Mick McCarthy to go in and maybe watch us against a Georgia and scrape a 1-0 win, and that's the thing with Stephen Kenny. And the one thing that when I heard he was taking over and it was, the process was sort of being sped up, in my head I was thinking, look, that's great and all, but are we going to qualify for the next tournament? But it's the seed's been sown, if you like. The FEI have now got behind Stephen Kenny. They're thinking this is a longer term. They saw what he did with the 21s, and that's the big question: can we qualify for tournaments? And
See, my thing is, like, you look at Mick McCarthy, for example, there's no guarantee that he was going to qualify, and we ended up not qualifying. I know we got to this playoff, but we got to this playoff by finishing bottom of the Nations League. So I think you're nearly at ground zero with the likes of Martin O'Neill, who towards the end of his pride, and Mick McCarthy. That I just think the upside of having someone like Stephen Kenny, and you're finally getting excited for a team that actually wants to pass the ball, is something that we haven't seen from an Ireland team in years. And I'm genuinely happy to go the next few tournaments, maybe 2 or 3 tournaments, not qualifying, so long as they're showing those kind of performances and going out trying to play football. Like 5-10 minutes ago, they're actually trying to pass the ball around the back. It was genuinely a bit emotional watching it, to be honest with you, and I was so proud of them.
Yeah, look, I'd say if you're Shane Duffy, what would you rather do? Play that kind of football or qualify for Euros? And that's probably the thing. And you think about financially how unbelievable it would have been, not only for the FAI but for the economy of Ireland, if Ireland are playing in a home Euro, in 3 home European games in the European Championship. So it's that kind of thing. And my worry on the Stephen Kenny is I thought the players even would start playing a little bit too naive and too arrogant and too expansive. But tonight we showed we could have a fusion of both, and that's probably what impressed me the most, and that's probably what frustrates me the most, that we didn't get over the line, because I didn't really think, bar the chance that was cleared off the line, I didn't really think they heard us that much, and that will make it bitter for Stephen Kenny. But it'll also he'll take loads of positives away from it, and I suppose that's just the nature of knockout football.
Final thing, Cian, before we've actually got a Madison Front Other Side new single there, and we're going to play it straight after this. Cian, final point. What about that point? Look, are we willing to give up sometimes that Robbie Brady header in Italy to try and play a bit of good football that maybe long term we can have ultimately better moments than that? Or do you think, it's Portman obviously to be pragmatic? I know everyone wants the best of both worlds, but what, is it, would you go down the route of really backing Stephen Kenny, if things don't quite go well, but the performances are still there? Or would you be really, focused on the results as well? Because I understand that as fans, we do want those moments, and, you do remember the Robbie Brady header as opposed to the good football, but I think, seeing consistently every single Ireland game, a team trying to pass the ball and play football properly, I just think long term that's brilliant.
Yeah, I mean, like, you can't beat them moments. Like, they're incredible. Like, but they're very few and far between. I think, like, I'm more of the opinion that we should make this like a long-term process, and if it does affect it in the short term, then that's what we have to deal with. I mean, there's no guarantee with the way we play. I mean, the last manager we've had, the likes of Mick, Martin O'Neill, and Trapattoni before that, like, it was just constantly negative. Like, you're watching Ireland games and everybody's giving out about the fact we won't pass the ball. Now here we are actually trying to pass the ball, and I think people have got to like understand that, like, we're not blessed with amazing talent, and that it's going to take time. But yeah, I mean, as I said, we're not guaranteed the qualification either way. So why not give it a go? We're playing a bit more exciting, expansive football, and then if it's a long-term project, and then as I said, Kenny's worked with all the underage players before. He knows them so well, and as they kind of grow with him, it means that hopefully the future of our football can be good, and we can actually start challenging, even getting out of the groups like well, and getting to like later stage. I'm not saying we're ever going to win that, like, but even just basically in the short term, if we have to give up some of them moments, some of them great moments, we might have more and more of them in the long term.
The fact you're almost getting ahead of yourself, Cian, I think kind of sums it up. And I'm with you. I'm nodding my head there. Go on, you say it. Let's get to World Cup quarterfinals.
Yeah, I know. I think I don't want to get cancelled. I'm live on Tackling Sport.
But I'll bring you, Sean, in. I do genuinely believe, and I'm with you, Cian, 100%. I do think the short-term moments of that Robbie Brady header, we had maybe 8 or 10 years aside of that where absolutely we didn't have that many moments. I know we had the Shane Long goal and a couple of other moments, but I just think you go for this long-term approach. You actually play good football, and an Ireland home game against Georgia is actually something people want to watch, and I just think that ultimately trumps everything, really, because I think that long term, that's all that matters. And I understand the short term moments are great and we remember them and the memories, but at the end of the day, they're just short term, and we're just going to keep going around in circles of having one of those moments every 10 years, as opposed to this now where I feel this team will always try and play football no matter who they're up against. And maybe that's slightly naive of me to think, but maybe Kenny, that's slightly naive, but I'm genuinely excited to watch this team, and I can't wait for Wales on Sunday.
Yeah, look, Kenny is going to have moments, and this Irish team is going to improve, and it's going to have those Robbie Brady moments. It just might become less and less. And that's the huge battle now for Stephen Kenny and Keith Andrews and Damien Duff, and is to get Ireland to a level where we're able to play good attacking football yet still be thereabouts of qualifications. Look, under Trapattoni, he qualified for Euros, was a handball away from qualifying for a World Cup. So do you look at that and think that was a success, or do you look at Stephen Kenny and hope one day he will get us there? And that's the thing, and that's going to be the difference. And Irish football is going to have to go through a whole culture change really to get to that level. And look, I think the people in Irish football are gonna start to get behind this, and there's going to be a movement, which there has been over the last couple of years, towards the League of Ireland and towards people looking at our league and everything involved in Irish football and going, no, it's good enough. And people are sick to death of hearing about John Delaney and sick to death about hearing about scandals after scandals involved in the FEI, and they just want something to get behind. And look, and if that means that the senior men's team is an attacking side that play really good football and look to win games by scoring more than the opposition, in terms of 3-2 wins and 3-0 wins or whatever it is, then maybe it is the time for Irish football to move forward and move away from the dark John Delaney days, and when the League of Ireland was the problem child of Irish football, and move towards hopefully a brighter future, but still qualifying for major tournaments, because that is that's the difference between a good reign and an unbelievable reign, and a legacy that Kenny could leave, and that's the thing, and that's what everyone can hope for really.
Yeah, absolutely. And just to mention John Delaney, that book I'd highly recommend reading, Champagne Football. And I guess it kind of shows John Delaney's almost obsession with tournaments led to us kind of going down the path of getting these managers that ultimately didn't even qualify for his tournaments, and we weren't even playing good football. So the worst of both worlds. I guess with Stephen Kenny, we've something to kind of get excited. But listen, we appreciate everyone listening, and really thank you guys for watching us either on Facebook, Twitter, and YouTube. Just to mention on the podcast, we're on podcast Monday, Wednesday, and Monday, Wednesday, Thursday next week. We've got Johnny Walker interview, we have Sean Tracy interview, we've got Premier League predictions back as well. So pretty kind of exciting stuff coming up on the show. We're going to leave you with Madison Front, who are actually our team tune. We've got a lot of questions of that before. So it's Madison Front, new single, Other Side. I'll be sharing the screen in just a moment. But for now, all that's left to say is from Tackling Sport. Do check us out on social media, and it's goodbye from Cian.
Goodbye.
And it's goodbye from Sean.
Goodbye, reluctant goodbye.
Yeah, just hold the fort for a second. I'm sharing the screen.